Okay guys, I just wanted to go through the review that we did today in class, just so you guys have it if you want to study from it before the test. First problem here, solve for the variable, 47 equals 9x plus 2. We're trying to get x by itself. I would always draw the line down the equal sign, and I'm going to use inverse operations to solve. So on the right hand side I would subtract 2, whatever I do to one side I have to do to the other. Left hand side is going to give me 45 equals 9x. Again, using inverse operations to solve, I would divide by 9, and I get 5 equals x. Since it's an equal sign, I could do x equals 5. Similar to number 1 here, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, giving me negative 11x equals 22. Making sure I brought down the negative 11. A lot of people forget the negative sign. Divide by negative 11, divide by negative 11. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. 22 divided by negative 11 is negative 2. Number 3 here, solve for the variable. I would recommend subtracting 5 for both sides first. I've had students in the past multiply everything by 3, but make sure you multiply everything by 3. If off to the side, if I decided to do that, I would have to multiply this by 3, and this by 3. In class, we talked about two-step equations, so the 5's would cancel out. Negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7. M divided by 3 equals negative 7. It is being divided by 3, so I would multiply now by 3, and I would get M equals negative 21. If here on the right hand side, if I did multiply by 3, that would cancel this out, leaving me with m plus 15 equals negative 6, and I would subtract 15 from both sides. M equals negative 21. Okay, same answer for both. However, I just multiplied everything by 3 on the right hand side. Translating, find the number. 8 more than twice the number is negative 14. Okay, so I have to translate and then I have to solve. I would underline keywords. More than means addition. It's technically a tricky translation, but we don't really focus too much on that because it's addition and order doesn't matter for addition. Twice means to multiply by 2. A number is our variable and the word is equal. So this should be 2x plus 8 equals negative 14. So not only do we have to translate, we have to solve. So I create a two-step equation. I subtract 8 on both sides. 2x equals negative 22. Divide both sides by 2. X equals negative 11. Solve for the variable here, getting a little bit more difficult. First we're going to combine like terms. So my negative 18x and 16x gets brought down to be negative 2x. That negative 13 comes down. I'm going to add 13 to both sides, giving me negative 2x equals 46. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2. X equals negative 23. I could always check all my answers by plugging the variable, the value for the variable back into the original problem. Number 6, solve for the variable. Again, getting slightly more difficult. I'm going to distribute here. 12y plus 16 equals 16. I would normally see if I can combine like terms after that. Here I don't have to. I subtract 16 from both sides. 12y equals 0. You're not done here. Okay, and there is a solution here. I divide by 12, divide by 12. Anything, a 0 divided by anything is 0. Solve for the variable. Now I have variables on both sides. In class I talked about moving the smaller variable. I always like my variables on the left anyway, but here I would subtract 2y from both sides, giving me 3y minus 3 equals 12. I add 3, I add 3, 3y equals 15, and then I divide by 3, y equals 5. I could have moved the 5y over if I felt comfortable doing that. However, I would have a negative y and then I'd have to divide by a negative number. Still get the same answer, just different steps here. How many solutions? So in this case, we're looking for 1, none, or infinite. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow my rules here. I'm going to distribute 2x plus 8 equals, and I'm just going to, in this step, I'm going to combine like terms. 4x and negative 2x is 2x. 3 and 5 is 8. Now here I could automatically determine what the solutions are, how many solutions there are, but if I want to go one step further, I would subtract 2x on both sides. And when I get the same number on both sides, and this is a true equation, that's when it's going to be infinite solutions. If they were different numbers, it'd be no solutions, and if the variable didn't eliminate, it'd be one solution. Now we get into our translating formulas. If we're solving for x, that means we want to get x by itself. Okay, so if I had this here, try and get x by itself. So the first thing I would do is I would subtract b from both sides. Keep this line down the equal sign to make sure I'm doing the same thing to both sides. On the left-hand side, it would give me y minus b equals mx. And again, the goal is to get x by itself. So x is being multiplied by m, so I have to divide by m, and I get x equals y minus b over m. X is by itself, so I have solved the equation. Another example here, solve the following equation for x. The first thing I want to do is deal with the fraction. So I multiply by the reciprocal by 2, or 2 over 1. On the left-hand side, that gives me 2y. The 1/2 cancels out with the 2. I'm left with xz. To get x by itself, I have to divide by z, so it should give me x equals 2y divided by z. X is by itself. I have solved that equation. Solve for x, so this is our rational equations here. So I gave you the hint, clear the fraction. You're looking for the least common denominator. There's only one denominator here, so that least common denominator would be 5. The next step is to multiply everything by the LCD. Everything by the LCD. Your goal for this step is to eliminate the fractions. So 5 cancels with 5, you're left with 3x. 5 cancels with 5, you're left with 2. And 4 times 5, there's no denominator there, the denominator would be 1, so nothing cancels out, you're left with 20. After I cleared the fraction, now I have a two-step equation. I subtract 2, giving me 3x equals 18, and then I divide by 3, x equals 6. Again, solving for x, slightly more difficult. The least common denominator here would be 12. The smallest number it could possibly be would be 4, but 3 doesn't go into 4. Another way to do this is to multiply 3 times 4 to give you a common denominator. 12 happens to be the least common denominator. So I want to multiply everything by 12. 4 goes into 12 3 times, so that gives me 9x. That equal sign gets brought down. 3 goes into 12 4 times, so that gives me 4x. And 5 times 12 is 60. Again, now I have a two-step equation. I subtract 4x from both sides, giving me 5x equals 60, and I divide by 5. X equals 12. In any situation, you can always pause these videos to make sure you're doing things right, or you can go back and look at it again. I know I'm going pretty fast here because there's a lot of questions I want to get through, but feel free to pause and go back in any situation. Now we have a number line here. We have to describe the following using interval notation. So we talked about that. That's with either using parentheses or brackets. So we have an open circle here. So open circle deals with parentheses. We also want to find out how far to the left this line goes. So that arrow means it goes all the way to the left to negative infinity. And we would see, okay, it's going, and it stops right here at 8. Okay, at negative infinity, there's always a parenthesis. We never reach it. And at 8, since it's an open circle, it's going to be a parenthesis. So this would be parenthesis, negative infinity, comma 8, parenthesis. Solve the following inequality. You solve an inequality the same way you would solve an equation. Draw that line. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. I'm going to subtract 2y, giving me 5y minus 4 is greater than 6. Make sure we don't change this greater than sign to an equal sign. What that tends to happen, we're in a habit of doing so. We make the question easier. Divide by 5, divide by 5. I don't flip the inequality because I didn't divide or multiply by a negative. So we have y is greater than 2. If I had to graph this on a number line, 3, it would be an open circle because there's no line underneath, and I want all values greater than 2. Interval notation, the lowest possible value is 2. That arrow means it goes to infinity. Always a parenthesis at infinity, and since it was an open circle, there's a parenthesis at 2. Is x equals 4 a solution to the following inequality? Two ways we can do this. We could solve this inequality and see if 4 falls in the solution set, or I could plug 4 in for x. Either way will work. So if I decide to plug 4 in, I would simplify this. 4 times 4 is 16, minus 8 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 6 is 14. Is 8 greater than 14? No. So x equals 4 is not a solution. Solve the following inequality. I would distribute, giving me 5x plus 40 minus 7 is less than or equal to 23. I would combine like terms. 5x plus 33 is less than or equal to 23. I'll subtract 33 on both sides. 5x is less than or equal to negative 10. And then I would divide by 5. X is less than or equal to negative 2. On a number line here, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. That would be a filled-in circle, a closed circle, and it would go to the left. Interval notation, negative infinity to negative 2. Always a parenthesis at infinities and a bracket at 2. And that's it. So hopefully this review helped. Again, this is what we did in class. Just going over the answers for you guys so you have. All right, thanks a lot, guys.